Michaelson, we've come to the Glendale Unified School District boardroom, the site of recent chaos that led Governor Newsom to come visit. Violent clashes over how to talk about LGBTQ issues.
Stop asking little children what they sexually identify as.
This is hate. This is hate.
This week, the governor meeting with district leaders and then sitting down for an exclusive and extensive interview with us. Well, Governor Newsom, welcome back to The Issue Is. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
So we're here in this school board meeting room where we saw a lot of chaos and a lot of anger recently on the issue of LGBTQ rights for kids. You met with some of the officials here. What was your message to them, and what's your message to the kids here?
Well, I met with parents, I met with parent leaders, I met with the superintendent, the principal. It's not just about LGBTQ issues, it's about trust. It's about public trust, public education, about the weaponization of grievance. It's about so much more, and unfortunately it's come here to Glendale, and it's not unique. We're seeing this all across this country. Organized interest, disorganized interest, and legitimate parental concerns of what are we teaching our kids, and are you telling me the truth? And so we've got a lot of work to do to address these fundamental divides, but trust is at the core of it.
The issue of trans kids is new for a lot of people to process. Obviously the same-sex marriage argument's been around for a lot longer, 20 years ago almost, when you first started marrying people, and the trans issue is hard for people to process. How do you think the state should handle that issue, and how should people talk about that issue in school?
Well, with humility, with humanity, putting it in perspective. You know, a country of 330 plus million people, maybe roughly 1.6 million people identify as trans, 0.5% of the population. So a little humility. At the same time, I think you're right. I think the trans issue has come on as a more divisive issue in the context particularly of sports, where it's also been weaponized, and issues around pronouns. I remember the first time I was on Zoom, and all of a sudden I saw these different pronouns, and that even took me, I was like, what's this? I didn't fully understand that. I think a combination of those factors, the weaponization of grievance and dehumanization that I see of politicians that are exploiting this, like Ron DeSantis notably, but not unique to DeSantis, have also exacerbated this.
On the issue of sports, which you bring up, and I know you point out the fact that this actually isn't that big of an issue statistically in the state, but politically, clearly it's a big issue for a lot of people. There was a new poll that came out that showed that 70% of people don't think it's fair for people to be in sports without the gender they're assigned to at birth. How does the state handle that? And what do you
Never
do you
has
agree?
so much attention been, so few people, never has more attention ever been placed. I've not, in my 30, 40 years of sort of deeper consciousness around social issues, I've never seen more attention paid to so few people. I just asked my staff a simple question. I said, the NC2A, I imagine there's hundreds, maybe thousands of trans athletes. There must be, for all the amount of attention and scrutiny that's being provided. Turns out there are about 520,000 NC2A athletes, 226 or so thousand women. There's a handful, 35 or so. I mean, put it in perspective. I get why people are fearful. I get why people, and I understand, intimately understand it. I've got 4 young kids that are deeply involved in sports. I understand that. Again, you approach it with some humility and sensitivity, with some humanity. These kids are more likely than anything else to commit suicide. For the grace of God, go any of us as caregivers or parents. I don't like the weaponization, that the assault on the community. And so it's finding some common ground. In the state of California in 2013, a decade ago, well before I got here, established a framework, a foundation in terms of the fundamental rights for trans women, trans men, to participate in sports. Biden administration is trying to find some flexibility, and that's been a rulemaking process that's wildly controversial in trying to approximate the answer to your question. I don't have the answer to the question. No one does. NC2A is trying to work through this. But we have to come at it with some humility and humanity, and I repeat that because it's not there, it's not present in our current public discussion.
You know, it's Pride Month, and you're taking some of your time this month to go to Disneyland with Bob Iger.
Yes.
After we know that basically Disney made a decision to have some people not go to Florida and stay here in California and some of their employees because of Florida's policies. What's your message to Bob Iger and the folks at Disney?
Values matter. Our values are universal. We're a universal state. We don't tolerate our differences. We celebrate them, and that's good business. That's
Right.
my message.
And what's the message you have at Pride Night to all of those folks?
Just with love. You know, we all want to be loved. We all need to be loved. And you know what? My heart is broken. I grew up in San Francisco. My first taste of politics was the early memories around the Briggs Initiative in the 70s. And there was a guy named Harvey Milk, Tom Amiano, who eventually I ran against for mayor. These young leaders that had the courage to stand up and fight for LGBTQ community before anyone else. I mean, Harvey Milk's life was taken in that cause. And I thought we were past it when Ronald Reagan said, you know what, you can't catch gay like you can measles. Even Reagan said that and said, that stop the demonization of teachers and what's going on in the schools. And we defeated the Briggs Initiative, only to see Ron DeSantis weaponize it again in the Don't Say Gay bill and all these Republican governors. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. I mean, it's remarkable what's happening here in Glendale. It's happening in the state of California, let alone the United States of America. We're better than this. Where's our humanity? Where's our decency? Where's our sense of commonality, the commonwealth? And at the end of the day, divorce is not an option. People think differently, act differently, they love differently, they worship, they have different faiths differently. You know what? We have to define the terms of our lives in the context of other people's lives and decisions. And what's happening in the gay community makes me sick to my stomach. It really does. So I'm standing taller than ever in affirming people's faith and devotion to the cause they hold dearest, and that means they love differently or look differently, then I'm going to celebrate that.
And you get a trip to Disneyland out of it. Do you have a favorite Disneyland ride?
Well, I'll let you know. I haven't been there in a long time.
Okay.
I don't even remember. Is
Okay.
Space Mountain still open?
Space Mountain's still there.
Okay,
Splash
I
Mountain
don't
is
know.
now
Splash, that was
getting
the one that was
closed.
ghost.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.